Okay. Just trying to get my desktop to share. So give me a second. Okay. So, all right. Is it doing it?
I see it.
Perfect. All right. Are we ready to get started? Let's see. We have Casey. Hello, Casey. How are you? Oh, it's being live streamed too. All right.
Also,
Huh? Also live streamed. Okay, cool. So you're going to record me and you're going to live stream me.
yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Well, let me just introduce myself. I'm Jerica. I'm the senior project manager, and I'm also a graphic designer. And I have obviously experience in designing logos for businesses and for clients. I also work for TownWeb, which is like a sister company. And so for there, I do design a lot of logos for municipalities. And then I also have a lot of other experience in other things like making graphics for like Facebook advertisements and things like that. So today we're going to talk about the importance of logos and what goes into making a logo. All right, here we go. So why are logos important? So logos are important because you have your 4 different things: visual identity, brand recognition, trust and credibility, and marketing tools. So with that, the visual identity basically is when somebody looks at your product, or it's what they use to distinguish. When you see an apple, you know that that's for Apple, or when you see the check mark, you know that's Nike. So logos are basically what you see, and that's kind of going to be like the first thing that the client sees. So you want that to be something remarkable, memorable, something that kind of like sticks out. A logo also gives credibility. So if you have a company that doesn't have a logo, or a business that doesn't have a logo, most people will say, okay, well, either they're new, so they haven't had one, or is it some sort of spam or scam? Because that's big these days, scam. I'm not sure, if you guys get all that scam stuff on Facebook, but I do. So if it doesn't have a logo or it doesn't have reviews, most of the time I don't bother with it. And it's also a great marketing tool. And so a logo can convey your message. And, once you get your name out there and you get, that recognition with that logo, most of the time you can drop the words and you can just have the icon or the emblem, kind of like Nike did. Nike before had the swoosh and then it said Nike, and now they just have the swoosh. Apple used to have the apple and it would say, Macintosh or Apple. I think at one point when it first started, it was like Apple Company or something like that, or Macintosh Company. I looked at the life cycle of it. It's crazy how much it's changed. And then it's just the Apple now. One you might be familiar with is Starbucks. It used to be the siren, and then around it, it would say Starbucks Company. And now it's just the siren, which is when you see that green siren, you know that that's Starbucks and that you're going to get some delicious coffee. So understanding the client and its purpose. So what is the product and what are the values? So when you're going into designing a logo, when you're understanding your business or your organization and what the product is and what its values. So you need to know kind of, sorry. And you want to identify the audience. So when you go into designing this logo, say it's for yourself or for a client, you're going to want to know kind of what they have and what their values are. So let's use Starbucks, for example. Again, they have coffee. Their values are, I'm not sure, but I'm sure they want to have like basically the gold star standard. They want everybody to know that they're Starbucks. They have coffee. They have also delicious snacks and things like that. And then also who's buying it. So we're the audience and we're buying it. So we go in and we see that and we want to buy our coffee and it's good. All right. So step two, I can't say this word, conceptualization. Miranda, that is a hard word for someone to say. Basically, well, how are you going to get this logo? So you're going to brainstorm ideas and you're going to go into sketching. And so the way I do it and the way I come into a logo is I kind of research the client. I go and I think about, you know, what they are, what they stand for. So let's use municipalities for right now, because that's kind of what I do mostly. So most of the time when I'm looking, I look up the town or the city and I see, you know, if they have like, if they're a big farming community, or if they have like a big, if it's big on tourism, things like that. So I kind of look to see if they have like dairy farms, or if it's more like agricultural and things like that. And so then I take all this information that I get and I take screenshots, and I take kind of like words from the things that I'm looking into. So if it's like farming, or, you know, and I kind of put it all, I use Illustrator. You can use Canva if you would like. I put it all kind of in Illustrator on, you know, my artboard. And then I kind of move things around and I look at them in a way to see kind of what kind of looks best. So when I'm looking, I look at colors. I look at shapes. So, you know, for wheat, it's kind of like that long, slender diamondish shape. Or if it's like you know, dairy cows, it's a cow, but there's also like spots and things like that. Black and whites, if you want to use that, but there's also other colors. So I'll kind of make like a color swatch, and then I'll put everything together. I'll show an example, but I'm not sure how to get out of this and put it back on. So I'll show an example at the end of kind of the brainstorming process for one of our clients that we've done. So I put all of this together and I kind of piece it together like a puzzle. So you're going to want to get those creative juices flowing, and look at the colors and designs and shapes and things like that. And that's kind of how, that's basically that's where it all starts. As far as the sketching goes, you can, you know, that's with like the shapes and stuff. So you're going to kind of look at the shapes. So your basic shapes, your circles, your squares, your triangles, things like that, and kind of just like piece it together. All right, this is kind of my favorite. So typography selection. So typography is very important. So the type of font that you use is very important. If you're going to use like a scripty font, which goes with legibility, you're going to want to make sure that the letters look like the letter that you're trying to convey. You don't want an R that looks like an N or an S or something like that, because then when somebody reads it, they're not going to understand kind of, or they're going to say you're, you know, the name of the company wrong. And then also, it can also invoke emotion. So how you're feeling. So if you see a very hard, kind of strong, bold font, kind of like impact, you're going to look at that and you're going to be like, oh man, that's kind of in your face. But then when you see kind of, you know, a soft, maybe like a handwritten font or like a script font, then you're going to say, okay, that's a little bit more delicate or elegant or things like that. And I believe this next slide kind of shows some of them. So here are some of the font styles. So you have your serif fonts, which if you look at it, it has these little serifs on the end of it. You have your sans serif fonts. So they're basically just like straight across on the bottom. They can have angles, but for the most part, they don't have that little serif on the end. Script font is what I was talking about earlier. So you want to make sure that if you use a script font, you're going to want to make sure that it's very legible if you're going to use that for like the main title of the company. So let's say for Tweak, we want to make sure that Tweak is legible. So we might want to kind of, if we use a script font, we want to make sure that all those letters are conveyed as the correct letters, as opposed to, you know, is this a W? Are these U's? What are these? Display fonts are really good. They're kind of very bold and big. They would be good kind of for the bottom part. So if you have like, let's say for instance, Tweak Agency, you would use maybe like a script font for the tweak part. And then you would use like a display font for like agency. So it kind of breaks up that, it makes that contrast. So you see like the delicate, and then you see more of like the bold on the bottom. And there's handwritten fonts. If you would like to use those, you can. For the most part, just as advice, if you kind of work with handwritten fonts, make sure that you are it works well for your audience. So if you kind of have, if you have like a law agency or a law firm, I don't think you would want to really use a handwritten font, because that does it, that's more playful. So you're probably going to want to use like a sans serif or a serif font. If you have like childcare or daycare or a school, something that's, you know, more fun, you can use something other than the schools. But I have 2 kids, so it's like the first thing that pops into my head. Then you'll want to use probably something like a handwritten font. That would be good for that. All right, color psychology. So this is color psychology, and the colors that you choose are very important. They kind of make a statement. So when you see yellow and red, or yellow and that bright red, you think McDonald's. When you see red, you think Target, or you're going to want to go to the Circle. When you see green, you think of Whole Foods, or you think of Starbucks. I like pink personally because I really like Barbie, and I just like the color pink. It's very playful, and it's nice, and it's gentle, and it's kind of like that extra pop that you need. So when you're looking for a color for your logo, you want to make sure that you find something that kind of speaks well and speaks with your audience again. If you have, if you want something happy, and when somebody looks at your logo, they're like, oh man, I feel very happy and I feel warm, you're not going to want to really use like reds or like blacks or browns. You're going to kind of want to, I mean, you can use black because black is basically just like a whatever color, but you just want to make sure you stay away from those harsh colors that kind of are very bold and in your face. And then also with colors, you don't have to choose like your main colors. You can choose hues of this color. So if you want to use red, you can use red, but maybe not just like, maybe not the primary color red. Maybe you want to use like a shade or a hue of red. There's a couple websites that you can use that can help you find a specific color, or that can make color swatches for you. I'll post some links at the end of this so that we can share those for you. And also with the fonts, there's a font pairing website that I like to use sometimes, and it kind of helps put fonts together. They're very basic fonts, but I think there's some script fonts in there if you want to look at that as well. All right, icons and symbols. So this is very important. So like I was saying in the beginning, for the logos, you have your icon and your symbol, and then you have your text. But once you get your name out and you get recognition, or if you just want to use just like an icon, if it's easy for that, then you can just use an icon and add the text to it. And less is more. Simple icons. If you have a very complex icon or symbol or a very complex logo, when it comes time to maybe putting that on, if you want to get that embroidered or screen printed on things, that's going to be very difficult to do, because your logo is never going to look as perfect, because there's so much, like there's such complexity to it that it'll be difficult to convey on those things. So less is more for sure when it comes to symbols and icons and like shapes and things that you want to use for your logo. Digital tools and software. So these are the few of the things that you can use. Adobe Illustrator is what I use personally. When you use that, you can, when you draw in Adobe Illustrator or you make something, it makes it into like a vector art. So you can make it as big as you want, as small as you want, and it stays the quality stays the same the whole time. Photoshop is a little bit different. So for Photoshop, those are good for if you want to do like edits for images, or if you want to, like, say you have a logo and you want to easily change the color, like if you don't have the actual logo file, Photoshop would be kind of easy for you to do that. You can change the color pretty simply. Sketch is good too. It is vector based, but it's a little bit more in depth, and you can do a lot more things with Sketch. So you can create like websites and stuff in Sketch as well, or you could do that in Illustrator, but I think Sketch would probably be the better option for that. So for logos, you can use one of these three. You can also use Canva. But I will say there's a caveat with that. Canva is a great tool. And if you are like a novice, or if you're just kind of like just toying around or playing, you don't need these other softwares. But I will say that if you design a logo in Canva, it is not vector based. So you can't make it as big as you want. I mean, you can make it as small as you want, but you can't make it as big as you want. So say you design in it and then you want to put it on a billboard. There'll be some other steps involved in that. You'll probably have to put it in Illustrator or some other software to make it vector based. So then you can make it big enough to put on there. So that's my only caveat with Canva. I think it's a great tool, and I know lots of people who use it. This is actually in Canva. Thank you, Miranda. But I personally do not. So if you want help in Illustrator, I can definitely help you with that. If you want help in Canva, ask Miranda. All right. So finalizing the logo. So I kind of touched on this on the software that you would use. So depending on what you need it for or what you're going to put it on, there's different file formats. So you have SVG, JPEG, PNG, and there's like a couple more in there too. So depending on what you need, most of the time, if you save it as a PNG, that's going to be your safest bet. You're not going to have a background on it. It's going to be pretty crisp, so you can make it big, small, whatever, and it's going to look good. SVG is more for if you're going to put it on, it's more for websites, and if you're going to make it big, it kind of has all the information in there for you. So if you're going to be sending it to someone to do other stuff with, you can send them a PNG and a SVG, or just the SVG. So scalability, the logo should look good on a billboard as well as a website. So when you're saving it, make sure that you save it in a format that it can. If you save it in a JPEG, it's going to stay as a JPEG, and then it's going to have that background on it, and the quality is going to be subpar. Every time you save, a little bit of that quality is going to be removed, and then soon you're going to be left with something that's not as crisp and as clean as it should be. So when in doubt, save it as a PNG. PNGs are easier to work with, or if you want to, you can just save it as a SVG, and always save your work. That's very important. You don't want to do all this work and then you not save it. So conclusion, Canva is a powerful tool that can benefit any organization or business. It's easy to use and navigate, and it has both free and premium plans available. If you need help with design or marketing work, you can reach out to our team at Tweak, help@tweakagency.com, and we'll be happy to assist you with Canva or logo making or anything of that nature. One of us will be able to help you with that. And then any questions. So I'm going to quit sharing this presentation, and I'm going to show you some of the things that I was discussing about. Here we go. Okay, so this is kind of a brief view of kind of the thoughts that go through my mind when working on a design. I have like several different things on here. So we're just going to talk about Town of Geneva real quick. So I have a couple of things that I did. So we have, this was the final one. This was one of the options that they had. So this is kind of like the typography that we were talking about. So you can use like a script font, and then you kind of have like the sans serif underneath it. And then you have over here, again, the script font with the sans serif. But here is the thought process. So I have a couple wheat here in case they wanted wheat. And then I put some circles together because I thought maybe like a sunset would look good. And then I have some tree options, and I will release this for you so you can see what I did. So, and then this is Illustrator, by the way. Okay, so this is how I put it all together. It's um okay, so I kind of thought in my head how I would like it to look. So you saw earlier above where the circles are, that's kind of like the sunset process that I was thinking about. And then I kind of wanted like a nice fade on the bottom where you're kind of like walking through the park and it's kind of like that dusky feeling and you have like the sunset and you have the blues that go with it. Town of Geneva is kind of slopey. They're not, agricultural and straight across. So that's why I made this shape because I kind of wanted that. And then for the specific trees, I originally used cedar trees, but they wanted more of like a oak birch type of tree. So then I put the birch in there. And then for the shape, we didn't want to go with some, just basic kind of circle shape. So we kind of went with this, I don't know what it's called. It's like a half of a squoval. If you don't know what a squoval is, it's like a square circle. And then I turned it into a clipping mask and I kind of chopped the little edges off of it to kind of give it some sort of movement. So with that, I use the negative space. And negative space is basically, so this white area would be considered negative space. So in this town of Sylvester, I use the negative space to put town of, to kind of fill it out and make it look good. So this is the way this is my design process. I kind of put a bunch of shapes and colors together to make, I kind of put the shapes and colors together on a big canvas and I kind of put it, put my thoughts together that way. I know I'm not sure if people still use Pinterest, but I know sometimes people will use Pinterest to kind of make like a what's that word that I'm trying to think of?
Like a mood board.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying. I was like, idea board? That's not the word. A mood board. Yes. So I know some people will make like mood boards on Pinterest. I still do. I like making mood boards. So if I'm going into like a big design process or something, I will go in and I'll kind of put everything there to make like a big mood board. And then I kind of can see everything at once. I can see different things. So if I'm thinking of like farming town, or if I'm thinking of like a clothing company and branding company, I'm going to want to use like blues or pinks or oranges or things like that. So I kind of just stick it all there together. And as far as the, some good sites go, I'm not sure if you can still see this. Can you see this now? You can see this? Okay, perfect. So here are some sites that I like to use. So, I was looking at this because this was very interesting. So here I was talking about the Starbucks one, or not Starbucks, Apple. So Apple actually started out as Apple Computer Company in 1976. And then I believe this is the most remarkable, like the most memorable one. I didn't mean to put my hand up. I don't know how to take it down. I talk with my hands. So this is kind of what everybody remembers, and then they stuck with it, and so now they have just this straight Apple. Starbucks was also an interesting one for me. So here is the siren that they originally started off with, and then they moved to this. It doesn't look too much different if you look between this one and this one right here. The main difference is they removed this kind of negative space that's around there, and they kind of cleaned it up and crisped it out. And now they were able to drop the words and just leave the icon because, brand recognition, which is a big deal when it comes to branding and marketing your company. You really want to make sure that you kind of have something that's memorable so you can drop that. And some sites that I like to use. So I like to use FontJoy. It's very easy to use. You just type in FontJoy and then you can just click generate, and this pulls several fonts from several places, but they're all Google fonts. So you can, if you're going to use, it's just the easiest thing to get a Google font. So you can use this, and then it'll kind of give you pairings for that. So if you want a script font or if you're wanting for like a sans serif, and then you can just keep generating it until you find something that you like. So this is something that it's a nice tool, a nice free tool. Another thing that I like to use is What the Font. So basically the way this works is if you see a font that you like, and it's on like a logo or a picture or something, what you do is you paste the image here. Let me see if I can find something real quick that I can put in there. Yeah, we'll just use that. I don't know how to get back. Oh no, my worst fear. How do I get back? Hold on. I'm gonna stop share for a second. I lost my website. Where'd it go? All right, we're back. Okay, now we're back. So you just take an image and you pull it in here. And then it'll identify the font for you. So you can just choose. So they're all going to be the same. So then you can just click on it and click identify font, and then it'll tell you what font is used or what fonts are similar. So if you see something that you like and you want to use that font, then you can just drop it in here. You can find a similar one. It'll tell you the price. So if you want to get it, and if you purchase a font from here, it gives you, that's your font that it's safe to use for marketing purposes. It's not just like a free font. So you don't have to give credit. You've purchased it. So that is, I use this a lot. I use What the Font a lot. I think it's very nice. And then another site that we can use is, let's see. So if you have Adobe products, you can use Adobe fonts. And then if you use Illustrator or Photoshop, what it does is it'll upload your fonts to the cloud. So then you can use that specific font on all of the softwares that you use. So if you use Illustrator or Photoshop or InDesign or something like that, you could do it that way. And I think Canva has fonts too that you can use. I'm not sure. I'm not very well versed on Canva. So Miranda would be your gal for the Canva, but I believe Canva has fonts that are registered that you can use for logos, or if you just want to do something like typography or advertisements or something like that, you can use their fonts and it is safe to use. So yeah, that's what goes in a logo. There's a lot more that goes into a logo, but we're kind of capped on some time, so I can give some more information if we want. I'm not sure. Do we have any questions?
I have a question. When you are putting together a logo, do you work on different versions as you go? For instance, a more horizontal logo for a letterhead and then a more square logo for a site icon? Or do you complete the logo and then go back and make different versions of it?
That's a very good question. So I would complete the logo. So I would get the final version of the logo that I like. And then if it's for somebody, once it's approved, then I'll go in and I'll scale it down. If it's for a site icon, you'll need to scale it down so it fits in that kind of little corner that's up there. Or if it needs to be a different shape, then you can kind of manipulate it a little bit with that. So it's kind of like a branding guide. That is what you're kind of, I think is what what would work for that. So you have your logo, your original logo, you have it, it's the final product that you're working with. And now you're going to kind of manipulate it and turn it into a branding guide. So you can go in and you can kind of change it to make it more square, and more rectangle, or if you need it more circular. If you're going to put it in a header, then I would kind of, adjust it that way. Now I'm not sure if Canva does it, but I know Illustrator does. Miranda, let me know if it does. But there's different, in Illustrator, you can have different layers, and different, on the side, it has the layers. Let me see if I can show you. I'll just use this as a example again. Let me find it. Just share. Okay, I'm just going to share my whole desktop because it's the easiest. Okay, so you have your different layers over here. So with that, you can create, like, say we have our one layer. And then if we want to change it, then you can make like another layer and put something in there. So then in the end, you have your final product. We can do, like, let's use this one as an example. That's a bad example, but we'll just use this as an example. So let's say they want this in another style so it can fit in an icon. You can always take, like, and it's totally up to you if it's, if you're designing it, what you would like to do. So here's the final logo. Let's say they would like, I have to zoom in, sorry. They want it for like an icon on the site. So you can always take, like, sorry, I have it all grouped together. You can take like the T and the G and you can kind of move it. I'm also working with a mouse, which is kind of hard. And then you kind of put it together and then put WI or something like that. So then you still kind of have the typography from your logo. So it's kind of more like, this is if it's just typography and not like text or not an icon or a logo. So I would say that I would make the final version of the logo, and then I would go in and I would tweak it to kind of work with what's needed. If this is for, yourself, if it's for a client, then of course you'll have to make like different versions of it and then, wait for them to approve it. But if it's for yourself, then you can go in and take what you already have, because it's kind of easier to work with what you already know you like, than kind of going off of, okay, I like this logo and I'm getting there, but let me go and make this this banner with this logo. And then you decide that, oh, I made a better version of the final logo that I like. So then you have to go in and adjust the banner again. So my personal preference is make the logo, have the final version, and then go in and kind of adjust it to what's needed for you. I hope that makes sense.
Yes, thank you. That makes sense.
And no problem. All right. Let me stop sharing. And this is for Town of Sharon. That's where I use the wheat. All right. Oh, I'm reading in the chat. Hold on. So for Nila asked a really good question. For special themed type of marketing, do you use the brand's font, or can you stray away from the brand kit and use the Halloween inspired font? So with that, I think you can. So this is just from personal experience. As long as you don't alter the font that's on the logo. So the brand font that's on the logo, do not alter that. If you have like a branding kit, don't change that. You can get in big trouble if you change that. But if you're doing, like, let's say for a Halloween, you want to do kind of something spooky, so you put the logo in there, but then anything else that you kind of use in that advertisement. So let's just say it's a square and you're doing like a jack-o'-lantern and some house in the background, anything that you used in that, you can use, like, your spooky font. So let's say it's a Happy Halloween from Tweak Agency. So Tweak Agency can be on there, and the other fonts that you use on, like, you know, the marketing material that you use can be anything other than the font that's for the logo. So like a branding guide is basically specified for the logo, unless it's specified that you have to use it in other things, like if you need to use like heading tags or something like that. But for the most part, it's just for the logo is what the specified font is for. I hope that answered your question a lot. I'm sorry.
Yes, it did. Thank you.
Good, good, good. Yeah. So, all right. Do we have any other questions? These are good questions. I'm
Do
better
you
at,
have I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, I said I'm better at answering questions than giving like the long presentation.
Do you have a go-to spot for the basic vectors, like the wheat that you used, or did you actually create the wheat yourself?
No, I didn't. So for the wheat, you can use like I think there's like Vecteezy or something. I can send you, I'll put together some links and stuff, and then we'll send that after this. So you can use basic vectors, but with that, I would be very careful using them, because some of them you have to give like credit to the person who's designed them. So if you use them, I would say you need to use them as just kind of like a guideline, and then go in and adjust it and change it up enough to where it's not copyrighted. So the wheat that I used was a vector, and then I went in and I kind of changed it. I altered it, and then I kind of redrew it. I re-illustrated it. And then you know, and then I used it that way. So like on Canva, I know that they have royalty-free icons and images that you can use. So you can use them that way. And then I think there are other vectors that you can use, and, you know, vector websites. I'll send I think I have 2 that I use the most. So you can kind of grab those, but I would say just be careful if you use them. Make sure that you change them. And then there's also a tool that you can use on Google. It's like Google reverse image search. So I kind of use this a lot to make sure that I'm not in copyright infringement. So you can upload, you know, a logo or something that you've done into the Google image search, reverse image search, and it'll kind of, you know, pull up a bunch of stuff. So if it pulls up something that's like a direct, like, okay, this is exactly the same logo that I use, then you know that, you know, there's a potential that you could have, like, you know, copyright infringement. But if it pulls up a bunch of stuff that's kind of not like what you used, then you're good to go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So royalty free is the key. All right. These are good questions. Do we have any other ones? All right. Well, if we don't have any other ones, I guess we can go ahead and conclude this. I'll gather all of the links that I spoke about, and if we kind of have like examples or something, I can send that to you as well, with that vector links for you. And then we'll send that to you. And then if you have any questions, you can always send an email to help@tweakagency.com. Or if you have any comments or anything that you would like to send us as well. I believe we have another webinar coming up in the near future too, so look out on that. You can probably follow along on our Facebook, or our website will have those posted there. So if there's any other webinars that you might be interested in, and we're always taking ideas as well. So if you have ideas that you would like to send us your way, and we can give you a webinar about that as well. Awesome. Well, thanks guys for coming. I don't know how to stop.
It was awesome, Jerica. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Oh, good. Thanks so much.
All right. Marina, I think this is you. I don't know how to do this.